So for our presentation today, I'm actually going to be using live demos. And I'm hoping that I can get somebody who's willing to come up and help me. Is there anybody that's willing to come up? All right. It's not too bad. Yeah, it's not bad. This one's not bad. Well, we're going to talk about that. We are going to talk about that briefly. We don't want to get this near that guy at all.
Throw off the calibration?
It'll throw off a lot of things. So, don't take this the wrong way, but I'm going to need you to probably shine a light on these items.
Is a cell phone flashlight okay?
No?
No?
I want to use this.
You like your high power?
High power UV light.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, that'll be one of our tools. Who in here has experience with radioactive materials? Yeah? Just a few of you? Well, believe it or not, they're in your everyday life. And as I'm setting this up, you would probably never think of a cup like this as being radioactive. I'm just going to throw some things out at you. I've been collecting these items for about the past 6 months. We went to a physical security meeting within the ISSA, and we got to talking about, basically we got to talking about how information security and teaching people about information security, sometimes it's difficult because they don't understand what we're talking about. And we'll talk about risk levels, we'll talk about things. So this is kind of spawned out of one of those conversations. Let me see. I think I've got to dig down one more layer, unfortunately. Anybody ever travel back in the day when you actually took a clock with you? Like one of these? Do you remember anybody having one of those? Still have one. I literally, this one, I put it in my briefcase and carried it back in the day. And I had put my razor up against it, which was electric razor. So I had the time clock, I had the electric plastic razor with the wire. So they pulled me out of line and wanted to see what was going on in my bag, yeah. I have that a lot. I have that happen a lot. What is this? What are you doing? Just something. It's nothing major. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Does anybody know, do they check at TSA for radioactive material as you're walking through? Does anybody know? It's a little bit scary. All right. And you know what? I need some flowers. I've got to have my flowers out. You guys like flowers, don't you? Doesn't that look dangerous? Yeah. I would not set my coffee near any of it. I'm going to move this just in a second. It is. Isn't that pretty? I love it. We've got a little bit of everything. So, first of all, I appreciate y'all being patient with me. This setup takes a minute. My alter ego, if you will, is known as Dr. Hacks. And I started that back years ago, so we'll get started here. Do you have, the slide is up here. I'm missing one item. Which would be my speaker notes. And you want me to stay on my speaker notes, I promise. So, first of all, I want to thank you all for being here today. You're giving me one of the precious things that you have, and that's your time. So, my intent is not to waste your time, but to give you something that you can leave here with. And I want you to think about the way this presentation affects your thinking, okay? Because we've seen several presentations today about the way people think. And when you leave here, you're going to think differently, I hope, than when you walked in the door. Somebody already mentioned it, but have you seen where there have been indications of radioactive shrimp found at Kroger's, found at Walmart? Have you heard about that? Well, look it up. It's out there. I don't have enough time to get into that heavily. But the radioactive material that's in those things is like 10 times worse than this. The radioactive material in those things only has a 30-year half-life. So it's going to deteriorate very quickly, which means it's pumping out a lot of radiation. These items have a half-life somewhere in the thousands to 10,000s of years. So they're not near as bad as what we're talking about within shrimp. The one I saw that was even more concerning, ready for this one? Spices, like cloves. I don't know about you guys, I like spiced tea. So I drop cloves into my spiced tea. That means whatever's in the cloves may be leached out into what I drink, which means whatever's in the drink now goes into my body. So I'm going to advocate that you buy a Geiger counter, not to do testing for uranium in your home. You can, but to be aware, because they've gotten to be cheap enough now that you can use them very readily available. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. You may ask yourself, who is this guy? Well, I tell you what. I've been very blessed for 38 years. The young lady and I have been able to enjoy life. During this time as a professional, I've been able to create a lot of security jobs here in the Louisville area. I've created security jobs across the nation and around the world. I've also helped to establish a lot of the chapters for professionals around here. So when you think about that, what I want you to glean out of my experience is I was a young country boy who knew nothing about security about 20-something years ago. And I got with a group of people just like you, and we sharpened each other. And that is why I'm here today. I've been retired for 5 years. I enjoy the life. But I'm passionate about security, and I'm passionate about making sure that you get the opportunity to have conferences like this, to be made aware and to network. But most of all, I want to have fun, especially now that I'm retired. So with that being said, let's move on. I was going to do this where I was going to put cookies in this plate up here. I'm not going to do that now. the cookies I was going to put in the plate, and I was going to say, I make the best cookies. And I do. I make great cookies. But after the demonstration today, I don't know that you would want to eat these cookies. I think, in fact, you would say, no, I don't want to take that. So as we move forward, I do have some cookies that you guys can have as a break. But, all right. If you would move to the next one. There we go. My father-in-law of 38 years gave me a box of items, and it had a watch in it. It had several, actually. And I got this watch from 1913. And this watch is beautiful. I mean, you can look at the inside of it, right? You don't see craftsmanship like this anymore. This watch was built before electricity was in normal people's homes. Now let that sink in just for a second. People did not have electricity when this watch was built. That's what's changed in this 100 and something years, right? So this watch, when I got to looking at it, I noticed the face of it would glow. And I'm like, how does a 100-year-old watch still glow? So I started investigating. I saw it said radium dial. Did some more investigating. I took the watch to a physical security group meeting and started talking about, hey, what do y'all think about radioactive material and how it relates to information security? So out of that, we spawned this particular discussion. Next slide, please. So today we're going to see how those two items, radioactive material and information security, how they're related. And the concept that I want to teach, that you'll be able to carry this over and show it to other people, and they may not understand risk when it comes to information security, but I got a feeling they're going to understand risk when it comes to these types of items. And we're going to use several basic methods that we use in information security. Everybody's familiar with awareness and detection. You're also familiar with things like tools, processes, and knowledge, and being able to use those, right? Well, just imagine that you're trying to explain to a C-level or somebody at an upper level within a company what risk looks like, and they're not getting it for some reason. If you have a concrete item like one of these, you can kind of help them see hidden dangers, and that's where we're going to be going today. So the tools that we're going to be using, and I'm going to go ahead and get this ready. This is a UV flashlight. A lot of you probably have one. This one, it does two different levels, but the main thing that I want you to remember with it is this is actually kind of dangerous if you shine it in somebody's eyes, so we don't want to do that. And it's actually good if you want to disinfect the plate. Germs are gone now. I actually have a UV system at my home that I use for my water. I have water coming out of a well, so it uses a UV light for that. And with that, I'll turn that back off. The other thing I'm going to be using is a Geiger counter. Now these have gotten really cheap, or what I would consider cheap. I have one that costs $50. It only has one Geiger tube in it. I have another one that has two, which is this one. And during the demonstration today, what I hope to show you is for $50 up to about $100, you can do everything I'm doing, because the places I bought these items at, most of them don't know what they have. They don't realize what's going on. And when I take it up to the counter and I hold the Geiger counter over it and they see that it's going off, they're like, why am I holding? And it creates a question, it creates fear, right? But we can educate and help to change that. So with that being said, We've got our Geiger counter. Some of the terms I'm going to use today, one of them is count per minute. Okay? And the count per minute, you hear the click, 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 click. What is happening is there's a beta or a gamma ray leaving the items and hitting the Geiger counter tube, which causes a spark, if you will. And what you're hearing is that spark. Okay? The more sparks, the more counts, the higher in radiation. Does that make sense? Anybody ever used a Geiger counter before? Yeah? Okay. Well, I'm going to invite you to start doing this here in just a second. Our counts per minute, do you want to use a apron during this demonstration? Do you feel safe?
Do you have an apron?
I do have an apron.
That's a very leading question, so I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
In here.
It is. You notice I'm standing way over here, right? Yeah.
I'm just soaking in the purple.
No, you're fine. I don't even know if the thing will. It should fit fairly well. Let me help you out.
One size fits all.
Yeah. We got you. It's not really built into the. All right. Right. Yeah. It does cover him. Okay. So now that we're set up, let's go ahead with alpha and beta. A piece of paper can block alpha. Beta, it only comes away maybe a few inches. Gamma, on the other hand, like the Incredible Hulk kind of thing, gamma travels. And gamma requires lead to stop it. Kind of heavy, right?
The alpha particles are like charged helium, right?
I can't tell you that
I
exactly.
think that's it. I think beta is actually like neutrons, and then gamma is actually radiation.
So I know the detectors aren't any good with alpha, but they're very good with beta and gamma.
Yeah, like you said, alphas are easy to block.
Yeah. So on to the next item. I was joking with my wife, and we were out shopping, and I came across this pair of earrings. I'm assuming the earrings are up there. You can see them well. So here's some earrings that I bought for my wife for like our 40th date, anniversary, something like that. Oh, yeah. She didn't want to wear them. I couldn't figure out why. But can you guys see that? I mean, can you see the difference? With this light, I can go into a flea market or into a store, and I can be a pretty good distance away, and this light allows me to see these things. Okay? If you wouldn't mind, we'll set that one down. Some of the things we're going to check right now are what gets illuminated by the UV light. Because just like with any detection, we need to understand what is able to be seen and what is not able to be seen. Now, this one doesn't light up very much. If you notice, you can tell there's a little bit of a green glow here. Do you guys see that? Just a little. Okay.
So hard to see from the audience.
It
also
is.
The blue flecks are kind of illuminated too.
This is a plain piece of regular glass. What color do you see? Kind of a bluish purple. This is a piece of glass that's been cut. What color do you see? It's a green. So does this have uranium in it? It's green. It's glowing green. It's glowing more green than this does. And that's called uranium glass. That's interesting. This is a plate that would be typically found back in the 1930s. It's kind of hard to see, but it is definitely glowing green.
And those blue flecks too.
Yes, and those are probably from the filter on the light.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Thank you very kindly. How about a medicine bottle? Do you think medicine bottles had uranium in them? Surely they didn't. What do you think? Would you like to have the doctor that prescribed this one? Yeah.
Whatever patent medicine was in it might have been worse.
Oh. Well, how about this nice, what would you call that pattern? It's
Wasn't
like
it like a Navajo? Or
Navajo,
something?
yeah,
Like
it's kind of,
Southwest Native American.
yeah. So, don't really see much on this one. Well, daggone it, now I thought I brought uranium-based items. Oh, wait a minute. Look at this one. Wait a minute. They're the same dish, right? Or are they? How do you know? Because those two look identical to me. So, this one, what color do you think it's going to be? Can't really tell, right? Can't tell. Bright orange, right? What's bright orange indicate? Nothing. I mean, if we look inside of it, there's nothing there. Okay? We can hold those up, they're fine.
Okay.
We can hold the big one up. It's not glowing. I'll tell you right now, the ceramic ones, very few of them glow. You notice the vase though? Look at this vase. Cute little vase, just sitting around on Granny's table. Your wife picks it up. Maybe you pick it up for her as a gift, right? Remember my clock that I carried? You know it's going to glow, right? Oh my goodness. How's that? Is that bright? You see it back there? Oh yeah? Well, this clock is the same. It glows fairly well. Yeah? Again, these items are close to 100 years old now. Yeah. I appreciate you helping me. Thank you very kindly. So, what kind of time am I at?
You got about an hour, 35 minutes.
How much?
35 minutes.
35? So, our test results, we have green glass that glows. That's cool. We have clear glass that glows. The clear glass, I'm going to suggest to you, probably contains lead. Probably. You've heard of lead crystal? So lead crystal might glow under UV light. So if you're out looking for some of these things and you're out trying to understand what has radioactive particles in it, what doesn't, well, lead is kind of the remnants of a radioactive particle. It's not like uranium or radium, which we're looking at in the clocks. So I told you that the orange items, you know, without a Geiger counter, you really can't tell. I'll be quite honest with you. Without the Geiger counter, there's no way to detect what is and what is not easily. This plate, or this cup, has on the back of it Rachel Ray. Does anybody know who Rachel Ray is? Yeah. Do you think she was born before 1940? No. So we can probably discount this one using our knowledge. We can discount this one as not having radioactive material in it. we can try. There are some folks out there who are producing radioactive material today, kind of retro. There's a big craze over using the glow-in-the-dark or the glow uranium glass. Big craze out there for it nowadays. So I've got a false positive with the lead crystal because it shows up, right? I've got a false negative when it comes to UV light and the orange, right? So those concepts of false positive, false negative, they translate right into information security. It's a very easy demonstration to show somebody how those two are related. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. When we're thinking about information security and how it relates to this, we look at the kill chain. Everybody know what the kill chain is? Yeah? Within the kill chain, is it better to stop things early or late? Early. It's cheaper, right? So the idea is we want to detect things as early as possible and stop them as early as possible. If I can look at these things and detect them early, I don't need a UV light. I don't need a Geiger counter. Same concept. I can show that I can detect those and get them out of the way quickly, and I don't have to have expensive tools. Auditing, doing those types of things within your security organization, they're not real sexy. A lot of people, oh, you got to have this great tool, you got to have this, you got to have that. Let me tell you something. I ran a pretty good sized organization for a pretty good time frame. We focused on the basics. Once we got the basics down, then we could go ahead and get tools and get the things that were needed. But you need to focus on the basics first. Too many times, companies and individuals want what looks sexy. What I'm telling you is do your basic information security first. Tools can help, but if you don't know your inventory, if you don't know what patches you're putting out, if you don't know what you're doing to keep yourself safe, those basics, it's just like this stuff. It's going to sneak up on you. And that patch you thought was done isn't done. And later on, if you think a low exposure, low risk, right? If you think of a low exposure, a low risk, what happens if it lingers over time? It becomes dangerous. Same thing with these. If you ate off this plate every day for 10 years, you think you're going to be exposed to radiation. Yeah, you are. How much, how dangerous, I can't tell you. But what I can tell you is, if you're aware that it exists, you can avoid it. Same way within information security. The proper placement of processes and people and knowledge within a security organization, it's vital. And what happens way too often, we overlook the low-hanging fruit and we try to go after something that's, much more complicated. And the truth is, most companies don't need to do that. So, probably need to go to the next slide, sorry. One more. I took a trip back during the spring and went down to Tennessee. Most of you probably are aware that during the Manhattan Project, just down the road from us, they actually enriched uranium for the bombs that were dropped over Japan back in the day. Most of you familiar with that? Yeah. when you go down there, it's kind of, I'm going to use the word overwhelming, because to realize that close to us today is the U.S. stockpile of enriched uranium. What is it we're always trying to stop everybody else from getting? Enriched uranium. The centrifuges that you hear about them destroying, and that's all taking place down there near Nashville, near Oak Ridge. When you think about that, think about the threat that that could cause for us in this area. Again, a reason that I would suggest that each of you take the $50 and go out and get you a Geiger counter just in case something were to occur. All right. Now, humans, I'll stay in the slide. Humans have a risk appetite, right? When you think about risk appetite, a lot of times we're referring to a company, but each of us has a risk appetite. When you get in a car, are you taking a risk? Yeah. When you get on a plane, is the risk higher in a plane, higher in a car? Huh? It's lower in the plane. Yeah, see, we kind of look at that and we think, oh, the plane's higher risk. Well, if the plane were to crash, yeah. But there's more car crashes than there are plane crashes. And there's a balance here, right? We balance risk within ourselves. Okay? I like cookies. You can tell I like cookies. So that's all right. That's a risk I'm willing to take right now. Right now. In the boardroom, they talk with lawyers. They talk with the idea of legal regulations. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. Lawyers and legal regulations. If you're somebody who's in charge of something, and that something is to make money, which is what most businesses want to do, you have to balance business purpose with business risk. As security professionals, too many times we think that the risk we see is so high that it has to be addressed immediately because it's the biggest risk that exists. We have to back away from that and realize our role is an advisor. Our role is to tell people these are risks that are present. It's the requirement for the owners to have the risk appetite and set that. Now that can change because humans change their minds, right? But as I'm standing up here next to this assortment, I'm choosing to be here. It's a choice. Same thing happens in the boardrooms. So I'm going to go to the next slide. Try to. And I go back to my cookies. And I apologize that I didn't have time to get my cookies on the plate. But I do make the best cookies. And at the end of this, we will share those. So perceived low risk. With the Geiger counter, I can show you this plate, and you can hear it start to click up a little bit. You hear that click? Does that sound really concerning? Not too bad, right? You know, I mean, to me, it's this one's up to 52 now. 52 is considered medium. I would have perceived this to be low risk, but it's in the 50s now, so it's at medium.
You're also closer to it.
I am closer to it. It's at 64 now. It's not going to hit 100, I don't think, because I'm not going to give it a chance. The point I want to make with that is if you have the right tools, you can determine if risk is heavy or, if it's low, high, or medium. In the case of most vulnerability scanners, I used to do vulnerability scanning. When you think about vulnerability scanning, you have low risk, medium risk, high risk, right? What happens with most low risk items in corporate environments, do you think? Nothing. That's just, it's business as usual. So knowing that is an acceptable risk is important. Whenever we see the Geiger counter start to edge up, our human spirit, if you will, starts to get a little on edge. And I'm going to do something to you, and I apologize for this. You see this bowl? This would have been a typical bowl in somebody's home, one that they mixed your cookies up in, one that they would have mixed up your cakes, using probably some kind of a mixer. Do you understand what I'm showing you? Did you know that you had already been exposed and that you were already at risk? Probably most of your life you've been at risk and didn't know it.
We're getting better with health management. I mean, I think back to, you talk about the AIDS, and then in the 50s we had the lead poisoning and the paints and stuff like that. So we're getting better, but we're still exposed over time.
The beeping indicates this has become a high risk. Okay? It's time to back off. So I'm at high risk right now. Do I look like I'm at high risk?
Not yet.
Not really. I'm not reacting to it. But it's a little scary, right? That beeping. Does that make you want to run? Makes me want to run a little bit.
Well, I'm over here.
There you go. What I will tell you is,
Keep going. It's like,
when we look at risk, sometimes not knowing is the biggest danger. And just like this situation, because of the fact Granny's bowl was sitting on the counter at our house and we may have mixed cookies up in it, were we exposed? Yes. But were we exposed enough that it's been detrimental? Who knows? Right? We don't know for sure.
Is that what's going on with microplastics now?
Exactly. Same kind of concepts.
I mean, it's two factors. It's the amount of what you're exposed to at that time, given plus the duration of that time.
Absolutely. So when we think about human behavior and we think about risk, each of us has a fight or flight kind of response. And what I was hoping to do today is teach you that you can control that through knowledge to a degree. Okay? When you are doing information security, so many times you have to work with individuals, especially if you're doing pen testing. Within pen testing, you are actually attacking, you're trying to break somebody's baby. Somebody built it, right? It's a system. When you're breaking that and you break into it and you find out that it's ugly, now you have the responsibility to politely tell them that their baby's ugly.
You don't necessarily have to.
Well, you don't have to, but you wouldn't be helping them. You wouldn't be helping them, right? But telling somebody that their baby's ugly, you guys are crazy.
Well, sometimes you just gotta face facts and deal with it.
Yeah. But should we approach it that way?
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's more polite ways to do about it. But sometimes-
Absolutely. So if you would go to the next slide. So when we look at pen testing, a lot of times what happens is companies will say, well, let's limit the scope, let's make it real small, let's get it down to where it can just be this one system or something. The fact is, if you're ever involved with pen testing, you want it to be as open as you can, focused, but totally open to do whatever the pen tester needs to do to find out if you have a problem. The second thing you need to do is you need to make sure that from a security perspective, you give them the controls that you're using. Now that's like, you're going to tell them how you're protecting it? Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, do you want to pay them to guess what you're doing? Or do you just want to go ahead and tell them so they know not to try to go at it that way? It's going to save you time, it's going to save them time, it's going to save you money, right? I ran pen testing for UPS for about, I don't know, six years or so. And I'll tell you right now, the scopes I wrote were pretty basic. These are the systems we're going after. We have the authority to burn it to the ground. That's the goal. Burn it to the ground, spend all the money, and have fun. Okay? Does that sound like that was very nice to the people that we were going after? Were we going after people? No. We're looking for flaws in the system. So when we think about flaws in the system, the young lady here, I don't know how many presentations I've seen this in, but she got paid $500,000 for her picture. That's how often this picture was being used and gets used. I think it sends the wrong message. I think the message that it sends is, we're here to burn your house down. What I would prefer is what I did a lot of times, which is, I'm a partner with you in this. And I want to make sure your security team knows I'm coming. And I want your security team to do their best to stop me. And when you catch me, let me know, and I'm going to go at it a different way. And what I will do is iron sharpens iron, right? This is what builds purple teaming, especially if you're doing it, whether it's inside a corporation or outside in another company and you're a third party doing the testing. Think of it like you are developing a relationship with them and you're a partner to them. You're not just some entity there to break them. If you approach it that way with that mentality and you train the system owner to understand that, your relationships will grow stronger and you'll do a much more effective job in security. All right. Do you think we like bad news?
It varies.
It varies?
Yeah.
As long as it's not affecting us directly, it's okay, right?
When you first think about it, no, but if you're a hacker, that makes money for you.
Yeah, it does. But think about the evening news that you see every day.
I bet you're living in hell.
What's on it? Is it positive? Is it positive?
It's never positive.
Why do people watch it? Because negative stuff gets ratings. I think Don Henley wrote a song, something about, getting the bad news, right? So when you think about this type of environment, you don't want to run into, you don't want to run in and be that person, basically. I'm going to have to speed up quite a bit here, and I do apologize. So you saw my glowing clock. Well, the reason the clock glows after 100 years is because a company knew that there was a need for the customers. The customers need to be able to tell what time it was at night, and guess what? They didn't have lights. They're not lights like we have. So they found out that they could take this glowing radioactive material called radium and mix it into a paint, and then that paint could be applied to a very small artistic brush, and young ladies who were very steady when it comes to painting. Their hands are very steady. They were taught to take that brush and apply paint in a very, very, very thin coat to the watches, also to the numerals, and they painted the watch faces. While they're doing this, they were taught to keep that tip very precise. And in keeping that tip very precise, they would take it and put it on their tongue and lick it. After a time period, they started developing things like tumors. They started having all kinds of health issues. They started having all kinds of challenges within their lifestyle. They had been compromised. When we think about cloud security, somebody misconfigured something, somebody didn't give us a procedure on how to do it properly, we didn't understand it, there wasn't an audit against it, we can also be exposed in the same way. Not compromised, but exposed. The Radium Girls, and I've got a book up here. If anybody's interested in this book, I bought it for this presentation. I would be very happy to let you have this book. It is a very sad story. It's about corporate greed, basically. And what happened was, as these young ladies continued to paint the dials and get sick, the companies, it's a shame to say, but the companies determined that if they didn't do anything, like provide health care to these young ladies, they would die. So the young ladies went ahead and tried to sue them, but because it required bone marrow to prove radiation poisoning, and guess what you couldn't get from a young lady back then if she was still alive? You couldn't get bone marrow samples. I don't know why, it's just the way that I'm understanding it. So what ended up happening was the young lady started to die. And finally, at the very end, I think one young lady was able to get some restitution, but she was already on her way out. The point was, this story got into the news, and as this story got spread around the country, there was basically an organization that was formed to help prevent this from ever happening again. And we know it as OSHA. If you guys didn't know that, that's part of where OSHA came from, health and safety. Yeah. All right. And this is a picture of these women. At first, it was kind of fun for them because their hair glowed, their fingernails glowed, their teeth glowed, just like the watches glow.
You got into the bloodstream?
Yeah. So, again, to prevent this from happening, there had to be regulations put in place. And when you think about regulations, when we think about regulations in information security today, just like safety, health and safety, regulations got put in place for InfoSec. Why is that? It's to help protect human life. It's to help protect situations where children could possibly be harmed, privacy. We'll talk a little bit about that. Everybody knows PCI, right? Everybody knows what the SEC is, I hope. Okay? When you think about these regulations, normally we think about them as, oh, we got to be compliant to these things. Oh, we've got to do this. We've got to do that. They actually do drive funding a lot of times for things like new systems, new roles even. But as a security professional, I just want you to remember that we are protecting human beings. It's not just that, hey, we are doing security work. we are protecting our customers. We are protecting ourselves, right? So the next time you hear somebody talking about compliance, I want you to remember it's important for a reason. Unfortunately, too many companies think that compliance means security. How many of us in here think that that's true? Compliance equals security. Nobody's raising their hands, right? It's better than nothing, right?
It's bare minimum is what it is.
Go one more for me. This, I know the slide looks a little old, but you know, breaches don't come out every single day. Especially breaches that are noted as being compliant, right? So these are just a few companies that have noted being compliant, but yet were breached. What's that tell you about compliance?
It's bare minimum.
It's bare minimum.
Also, these are just the ones we know about. What about the ones that are not open and told?
That's exactly right.
A lot of them just like to hide behind the covers and try to fix them themselves, when in actuality it doesn't help it, it hurts them more.
Next slide. Inside this room, you guys have been around this material today, right? On the slide, it tells us that if you have a CPM of 5 to 50, that's normal, background maybe. 50 to 100, medium, you want to check and see what's going on, you can read it. If you get one that's 1,000, you need to leave the area ASAP and find out what's going on. If you get over 2,000, it's extremely high, and you need to evacuate immediately and report to the government. You guys ready for the ride? Here it comes.
Okay, now report to government, y'all.
Time to leave.
How do you feel now?
What's the number?
The number just hit 7,100.
Holy wow. That's terrifying.
It's way over 2,000.
It's a little over 2,000, isn't it?
A little.
Why aren't you guys jumping up and leaving? Getting fight and flight kicking in?
A little bit.
I mean, here, you want to hold this? Didn't you hold this earlier? Yeah.
I'll volunteer to eat a cookie out of it.
You'll eat a cookie off of it? So what I'm going to tell you is I would never expose you to something that's that dangerous.
You just did it. Congrats.
The truth is, what happened to the Geiger counter when I walked away from it? You hear it clicking?
The distance.
It's distance. So you now know that as long as you stay away from it, it's not going to be detrimental to you. I want to share with you, people actually have eaten off these plates, right? I don't know that it wasn't detrimental to them, but what I will tell you is, if you have a plan for incident response, when you get compromised, just like we did, there's something that SANS put together. Hopefully you're familiar with this, but SANS has an incident response protocol that you follow. Okay? How many of you got a little nervous when you heard that? Yeah? Be honest. You get a little nervous? I'll tell you what, this stuff doesn't stay in my house, right? I keep this a safe distance away. What I want to teach you is from a behavioral perspective, when you have a plan in place and you practice that plan, when you find out you're compromised, instead of freaking out, what you'll be able to do is calmly work through the plan. I can't tell you how many times I had operations folks come to me freaking out. And when they would come to me, they would ask me, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I would be like, calm down. And I would tell them, We have 120 facilities that we've had to shut down. We have, 120, 200 systems per facility. You do the math, whole lot of systems compromised. Do we have a way to fix it? Not yet. Do you have any good news for me? That would be their question. And I would use something like, I just learned I can save 15% if I use Geico. Using humor in a situation that's devastating, it can be appropriate to break the ice and to rekindle that relationship and to make them understand you do have a plan and that you do have a way to work through it. So, from a behavioral perspective, you can do that. By human nature, and I'm going to throw this out to you guys. By human nature, back in the Dark Ages, we had situations where basically punishment was the rule of the day. Today, we try to reward people, try to, promote that good, right? But who has to teach a baby to say no? Do you have to teach a baby to say no? They say no. They just instinctively learn to say it. How about mind? It takes training. Unfortunately, as a human race, we have a behavior that's selfish. We talk about the internet being evil, right? Who made the internet? We did. So, logically, you have to say, if we made the internet and the internet is evil, we are then evil. Man, that's a negative thing, right? But we have to know we have a problem before we can start to correct it. And I would suggest to you that knowing this stuff would be a problem if it was in your house, knowing that we have security risks, right? We know we have a problem. We can then start to build and address that. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up for today. I appreciate you taking care of me on that. If you all...
Carl, I wanted to mention, so people who get interested in uranium, what happens when one of the pieces are broken?
When a piece gets broken, which is very dangerous because it gets in the air, if you were to ingest this, it's not good. So like if I broke a piece, I would ask you, please leave the room, right? We'll try not to do that.
So hypothetically, and I didn't because me and the wife talked about it, but hypothetically, if I brought you a broken piece today as a gift, would you accept it?
Sure.
I'll bring it next time then.
I actually have broken pieces, but I am very cautious in the way I handle them. I have inspected most of these very well.
All of my pieces stay in the house right next to my bourbon collection.
No, not me, not me. But thank you all very kindly. Hopefully you learned something. Yeah.